Hello everyone, this is another reaction video. This time it's about the U-Haul company, specifically the U-Haul family.
A family divided, a coup, lawsuits, and ultimately, murder. The story behind U-Haul is one of the darkest stories you'll ever hear. You see,
This story was featured on a show called Unsolved Mysteries, and the name of this channel is Hook, Hook. So check them out on YouTube.
this company started as a way to meet a need, but in time it became the thing that tore the founder's family apart and became the father's worst nightmare. Leonard Samuel Schoen, who we'll call LS, and his wife Anna Mary were young and in love, college sweethearts. LS could never have known that Anna Mary was the one
This is off topic, but I really like black and white pictures.
thing holding together his short-lived happiness. It was the end of his time in World War II, and they were heading home and needed a trailer to haul all their belongings. Problem was, there weren't any. So they packed their car full of what they could, and on their drive, worked out a plan to create the business for themselves. One where people could rent a trailer in one city, travel a far distance to another city or even state, and leave it there in their new destination. They would use their total savings of $5,000 to fill this gap.
$5,000. When one thinks of the scale of this business, and it started with $5,000.
The market, and in 1945, U-Haul was founded. Little did LS know that his new company of his would ultimately lead to his downfall. They started out by buying used trailers, but quickly found that
All right, I remember those trailers.
they were more trouble than they were worth. So, he taught himself how to weld and began building them himself.
He taught himself how to weld.
It was at this time that he did something clever for the business. He approached gas station owners and convinced them to conduct U-Haul rentals from their locations in return for commission. The first trailers were rented out for just $2 a day. The business continued
$2 a day.
to expand their locations and fleet of trailers, eventually adding trucks as well. All was going well, and the future looked bright, but nothing could have prepared LS for what lay ahead. On May 4th, 1957, at the age of 35, Anna Mary had a heart attack and died. His love and the mother of their 6 young children was
Condolences to this family.
gone. He had just told her the day before that he couldn't believe things were going so well. Then, when she died, he thought it was some sort of retribution for their success. It was always there in my mind. When Anna Mary died, I thought maybe we had paid the price, but we hadn't. There had been an equal partnership between LS and Anna Mary.
Now, amen to the equal partnership. She looks so pretty.
So upon her death, her 50% stake in the company was divided up between their children. Having spent a majority of the last number of years on the road, LS didn't know how to care for their children. So,
He didn't know how to take care of the babies.
a year later, he married a 23-year-old woman whom he put in
Oh my God, 1 year later,
charge of his kids and
he married a 23-year-old and put them in charge of his 6 children.
continued on with his work in the business. And with her, he fathered 5 more children. He would go on to divorce her 19 years later, marry 3 more times.
19 years was a good run. 19 years, she probably, when you think about that, she had all those kids to deal with. She probably was tired. I'm not going to judge her. Marriage is a lot of work.
And father 2 more children. And throughout all of
All right, so he married, I think he said 3 more times and fathered 2 more children. So then that's 6 children, 5 children, 2 children, so that's 13 children. He should have kept all those stakes in the company and not given them anything. Or if at the most, maybe give them, if there's 13 of them, 1% each. That way he keep 87% of it. Hindsight is 2020 though.
This, LS had managed to keep the business afloat, but a new crisis was coming in a form that he least expected.
I'm thinking, is this why Warren Buffett, he's not leaving his kids anything? They're not getting anything in the will, no inheritance. I'm wondering if he saw this or knows of this story. That might be why he's giving them knowledge and information as opposed to wealth.
His own children. You see, LS had been gifting his children generous percentages of his stock in the company for years, eventually, in the 80s, leaving himself with a mere 2% stake in the
Only a 2% stake in the company after this man has built this whole company. No.
company. He later recalled a friend telling him, "Your problem from now on will be the management of greed." And
He should have been listening to that friend before. That was a good friend.
this ended up being quite the prophetic statement, because all of his oldest children began vying for high-ranking positions within the company at the same time. The problem was they each seemed to have differing opinions on how the business should be run. There were even reports of physical fights during.
This is the trouble. When you don't build something, you don't necessarily appreciate it. It's kind of the same of like if you own a house versus a renter. If you get a renter, you want to make sure that they're going to act like they own the house in terms of keeping it clean and taking care of it. That's the key to a good renter. And of course, paying the rent and not tearing up the property.
Board meetings, and one case that resulted in charges being filed. LS and his oldest sons, Sam and Mike, were on the same side when it came to decisions regarding the
Hey Sam, hey Mike, thanks.
business. But two of his other sons, Joe and Mark, were on a
Joe and Mark.
whole other side, heavily disagreeing with the direction the business was being taken in. This came to a front when LS began diversifying the business way past the confines of the original successful business plan. U-Haul began supplying dance floors and punch bowls, floor sanders, motorhomes, awnings, jet skis. Unfortunately for LS, all this did was confuse and turn off their loyal customer base. And this change ended up costing the business big. Net profits went down from $42 million in 1985 to $9.2 million in 1986, subsequently putting the business in $600 million debt and costing thousands of jobs within the company. This is where things spiraled out of control. Joe and Mark did something that would forever change the face of the business, as well as the family. The two sons decided to betray their father and held a coup in 1986, kicking him out of the company. LS agreed to step down as long.
That's messed up. He raised up this company and ends up getting kicked out of the company. That is a shame.
As they would let Sam stay on in his position of CEO.
Okay, so the dad has stepped down, and the condition was that Sam, the son, be able to stay. That's one of the ones that stuck by him.
Joe agreed, but made his brother's life miserable, forcing
Lord, Joe, you need to be ashamed of yourself.
Him to quit just a few weeks later. But LS and Sam weren't ready to give up on U-Haul. So in 1988, they hatched a plan to get back at Joe and regain control of the company. Joe wasn't going to take it long.
Joe is like ruthless.
Lying down. And once he heard about their plans, he called it a hostile takeover and canceled his father's lifetime employment agreement.
Oh my goodness. Joe's gotten rid of his dad and his brother Sam and got rid of the dad, so he lost his retirement plan. Think of working somewhere and somebody just revokes your retirement. He goes from founding a company to being an employee and getting fired,
effectively ridding him of any retirement benefits. This fight was now...
Okay, so I think in a way, him giving all his retirement stuff, his stock, is trying to make up for those kids losing their mother.
Personal. And it was during the ensuing legal battle over ownership of the company that something terrible happened. On the night of August 6th, 1990...
Okay, so this is the thing that was featured on Unsolved Mysteries. Once you watch this, you can go watch the whole thing.
Sam's wife, Eva, was murdered. Sam was away on business at the time. LS's favorite daughter-in-law was dead, shot in the back with a .25 caliber pistol with a silencer. Sam offered a $250,000 reward to anyone with information regarding the murder. Authorities said the scene pointed to the work of a professional. LS's immediate thought was also that this was no accident or coincidence. But more than that, he told authorities and the public that Eva's death was the work of his sons, Joe and Mark. That Eva's death was the work of his sons, Joe and Mark. Alleged.
I mean, why wouldn't one think that? By the way, they were cleared, and there'll be more in the video about this. But considering everything, I couldn't see why he wouldn't think that.
One or both of these sons are indirectly responsible for Eva's death. I hope and pray that I'm wrong, but that's what I believe. He was convinced that they hired a hitman to kill Sam, killing Eva by accident when Sam wasn't home. Joe and Mark adamantly disputed the claims, even calling on the public to come forward with any information regarding the death of their sister-in-law. But with LS's unrelenting accusations being publicly thrown around, it started to affect the business. When a person makes the kind of statement like my dad, it has a great deal of credibility. People have to understand...
Yeah, because he had credibility because he started that business, and the fact that you did a hostile takeover, people aren't going to believe you. So, anywho.
That LS Schoen is not a storybook father. He has a lot of
Okay, so he's going to drop all the bones about his dad. One thing he did do is give you all that stock in that company.
Demons of his own. And Joe and Mark couldn't sit by and allow...
Yeah, he had some trauma. He lost his wife early, then he had these kids. He didn't grieve. He hurried up and married and gave his entitled children all the shares to his company.
To continue. So they filed a libel suit against LS. Sure, he...
Oh my gosh, so not only did they do a hostile takeover, get their dad to step down, fired him, lost his retirement insurance, now they're doing a libel lawsuit for him expressing his opinion.
He's my father, but I don't like some of the things he has done. We won't kiss and make up when the lawsuit is over. The two sons knew they were going to be at war with their father. Their relationship would be forever ruined. LS and Sam's plan to take back the company saw the family back in court. This...
Okay, so now Sam and Dad are back in court.
Is where things get a little weird. The wife of the lawyer who was representing Sam in the trial became the subject of harassment.
The wife of the lawyer representing Sam and the dad. Oh, I've heard this before, but ooh, okay, I'm prepared.
Death threats made from magazine cutouts, rocks thrown through bedroom windows with notes attached, poisoned meat thrown into their backyard to poison their dog.
Ooh, no, not the puppy.
3 times.
3 times, Lord. He lived. Lord, I hope he lived.
And eerie phone calls.
Okay, I'm sorry, not the puppy. Leave the pets alone. That's just mean.
are only a glimpse into the harassment. The threats called her out by name, stating that if her husband didn't stop representing Sam, she would end up like Eva Schoen. The harassment continued to escalate until it came to a devastating head. The lawyer was at work when he got a call. His house had been burned to
Oh my gosh, the house got burned down.
the ground. The person responsible was never found. The opposing side, U-Haul, still under the control of Joe and Mark, claimed to not have any information regarding the harassment.
Alleged. I don't know. I think that they were eventually cleared, but I don't know.
But again called for the public to come forward with any relevant information. Either way, Sam's lawyer was never persuaded to quit and continued representing Sam until their win in court. The legal proceedings between the two sides of the family continued for some time, and Joe and Mark were officially cleared of any suspicion of Eva's murder when a man admitted to the crime in 1994.
Okay, a man admitted to the crime. Okay, they were cleared. They weren't guilty of this, allegedly, but they were guilty of a lot of other bad stuff.
He claimed it was a burglary gone wrong and was sentenced to 24 years in prison. Yet, like Mark had foretold, the bad blood didn't end with their father. All of the ins and outs of the court proceedings are quite tangled and murky. But in the end, Joe remained in control of the company. He and Mark have been successfully running the
Joe and Mark, oh my goodness, shame on you. You took that company from your own dad.
business since their coup in 1986. Unfortunately for LS, his personal demons
Oh my goodness. So the kids ended up, the two kids that did the hostile takeover ended up is keeping the company. And here's what happened to Dad.
continued to follow him, and on October 4th, 1999, Leonard Samuel Schoen took his own life.
Oh my goodness. Took his own life. Oh my goodness.
At the time of his suicide, he had lost almost everything. His family weren't speaking. He lived in a small house outside of Las Vegas where he spent his days writing letters to his children and keeping.
He spent days writing letters to his kids. He's still trying to reconcile with his children.
Low profile. The story behind U-Haul is a messy one, and despite
That's a shame.
all of the inter-family squabbles, court battles, staged coup, murder, harassment, and ultimate suicide of the founder, the business is still going strong today, with a net worth of
The business is still going on. Get ready for the net worth.
$10.87 billion.
Oh my goodness. So the name of the YouTube channel is Hook. That's going to be it for now, everyone. I will see you soon on my next video.